Hello and welcome to this video on how to replace the battery in an iPhone 11. First we're going to turn the phone off and remove the two P2 pentalobe screws from the bottom. Set those on your magnetic mat. And next we're going to heat up the phone all around the edges to loosen the adhesive. I'm using a heat gun, you can use a hairdryer. Now pry up at the bottom to make a gap. Insert a pick and then move it around the edges to separate the screen from the frame. Open the phone to the right and then put something behind the screen to rest it on. Now we're going to remove the three Y000 screws that hold down the battery bracket. Remove the bracket with your spudger and disconnect the battery cable. Next we're going to move the bracket covering the LCD cables and the proximity sensor cable. There are 5 Y-tip screws. Lay those on your mat in the same pattern. Go ahead and remove that bracket, and you'll be looking at 3 connectors here. The 2 bottom ones are the LCD, and then one for the proximity sensor. Now you can remove the screen from the frame. Now we're going to remove one screw to the right of the Taptic engine. And 2 screws, Phillips head screws, PH000 to the left of the Taptic engine. We're going to disconnect the connector with a pair of tweezers and then remove the Taptic engine. That gives us an area to access the battery with a spudger. Next, we're going to apply isopropyl alcohol to the edges and the top and the bottom of the battery. This is going to serve to loosen the battery. It's going to work at that adhesive. Put it on the hot plate around 90 degrees Celsius. You're going to want to keep it on there for about 60 to 90 seconds. That'll be enough to loosen the adhesive further, so you can just pry right up on the battery. Here's the new battery. You're going to want to make sure that the connector is at a proper angle, because when you put the battery in, it has to line up with the connector on the motherboard. Now, so we put the battery in the back in the right spot, we're going to replace the Taptic engine before putting the battery back in. Two the Phillips 000 on the left. Reconnect the Taptic engine. Now we can put the battery back into the frame. Again, making sure that the connector lines up on the motherboard before you drop the battery in, and it becomes fastened to the frame like that. Everything is in position, and we take the battery connector back to make sure it's not connected, and then we reconnect the screen. Here's the proximity sensor. You want to put it in the channel between the motherboard and the battery. And here are the two LCD connectors. You're going to want to put those in their connectors. Now it's time to put the larger bracket over the connectors. Put back in the 5 Y-tip screws. Now moving to the battery connector and the battery bracket. You make sure all brackets are connected. There's the Taptic engine cover, and now the battery. Reconnecting the battery here. Making sure it sits without pressing too hard. You do not want to bend anything, especially on the motherboard. Reinserting the bracket and the 3 Y-tip screws that hold it down. Time to close the phone. Now we're going to check to make sure the screen lines up with the frame of the phone. We want to check, make sure there's no debris, and then you could close the phone pressing down on the clips at the top, followed by the bottom, and then make sure everything lines up before you press down on the screen. Reinsert the 2 pentalobe screws. Thanks for watching this video.